All right, let's say you just ran 5 users in a test and you saw that 3 of these 5 users had a problem with a design element. And you want to know if 3 out of 5 users has the problem, what percent of all users would likely have this problem if somehow we're able to test them. So we've used the problem frequency calculator and enter simply the number of users that encounter the problem, which is 3, and the total users tested, 5. And this tells us if we see 3 out of 5 users in a test, we would expect between about 23 and 88% of all users to also have a problem with this design element. It's pretty significant. It updates down here in a sentence for you so you can even copy and paste this into a report. So you can be 95% confident between 22.9 and 88% of all users will encounter the problem. The other thing you could do is, well, if you stopped at testing 5 users, it tells you how likely you are to see problems that affect a certain percentage of users. So for example, the more obvious problems, that is problems that impact say 90, 80 or 70% of users. These are blatantly obvious problems that affect almost everybody. You're virtually certain you're going to see them in a usability test with only 5 users. At a sample size of 5, you could see you're about 85% sure you're going to see problems that affect about 30% of users. However, if you're trying to get every last problem, let's say ones that only impact 1% of your users, then you're really unlikely to see that with such a small sample. There's only about a 5% chance you'd even see that. So if those are really that important, you really need to increase your sample size. However, you can see you still have a good chance of seeing the most obvious problems given this sample size. Another thing we're going to want to do a lot is know what percent of all our users would likely be able to complete a task given what we've seen in a usability test. So we click on the completion rate calculator. Let's imagine we tested 10 users and 9 out of 10 completed a task. So we enter those two values in here. And the graph is going to tell us the most likely range of the actual completion rate. And these are just the boundaries of the confidence intervals. And putting that in words, it tells us that we can be 95% confident the true completion rate is between about 57% and 100%, again in this graph. To be more informative, perhaps I have a benchmark that's saying, well, we want to be sure at least 70% can complete the task. How sure can we be? And that's what this test completion rate is in here at 0.7. And it tells us, well, there's a 91.1% chance the population completion rate is greater than 70%, given that we've seen a 9 out of 10. If on another task we only saw, for example, 8 out of 10 users completing it, we see the confidence intervals get changed and updated right away. And it tells us, well, there's only a 73% chance the population completion rate is greater than 70%. That's less compelling evidence there that it's really going to exceed it. And so we would either need to test more users or see what we need to do about improving that task.